Hello, my name is Emilio, and welcome to my essay about our trip to Spain and Portugal. The main question that I sought out to answer on this trip was about what makes a good public space. When we think of some of the beautiful urban spaces, what comes to mind? Is it something like this or this? I paid attention to a lot of public squares while I was in Spain and Portugal, and I felt most of them had similarities and certain qualities to them, and I'm going to go over a couple of them. I found that one of the most important things that makes these spaces so amazing and different is that they're unique to that city. Take a look at a couple examples. This long path in Porto and this huge metropole parasol, or what they call the mushroom, in Seville. These places are unmistakably tied to their cities. When you see a photograph of these places, you know exactly where it is because they're one of a kind. When I was walking in these spaces, I got the sense that you won't find these views anywhere else in the world, and that's what I believe separates good public spaces from not as good ones. Here in America, you're probably familiar with these corporate chain entertainment districts. The problem with these is that there's really a lack of identity, and when they're built in the heart of the city, like they usually are, like the character of the city diminishes, because these are off-the-shelf, prefab, ready-to-build districts, and to me this is kind of a cookie-cutter approach, an example of placeless architecture. You don't know where you are when you're there. Like, these pictures could be anywhere, and they're repeated city to city, and they're just unimaginative, because these properties in dense urban areas, they have the potential to set themselves apart from other cities and say something unique and specific to that city. So let's go more in depth about what makes some of these spaces we saw on the trip so great. The first one being the absence of big, obnoxious billboards and ads screaming, "Look at me." There's a strong sense of civic pride in maintaining the unique character of these places, especially the cities in Spain and Portugal, since they have such rich histories, and overpowering billboards or ads would detract from the charm and heritage of these spaces. And since they're more walkable, people spend more time walking through these cities, and everything's at human scale, and there's less emphasis on grabbing attention with huge billboards designed for people driving in cars and looking out their windows. The second reason is the adaptability aspect. Being able to serve multiple functions, some being more clear than others and distinct than others. Like, on first glance, these are just stairs for walking up and down, but it's also a place to sit and relax, maybe catch a breath. And we saw a street performer come along to play, and then those stairs became, for the audience, like an informal grandstand for the musician. And these types of spaces are not dictating movement. They're vast, open spaces allowing you to move freely and use the space for what you want. Like here, street performers use the site for what they want, and the ongoers will just gather around them. This wide staircase that we saw in Barcelona, adjacent to the public market, does the same thing. It acts as stairs, obviously, but more importantly, it gives the patrons a place to sit and people watch and take in the scene. And then in Porto, on a smaller scale, this slope street, it was a walkway by day, and then it turned into a natural amphitheater by night when street performers start performing at the bottom. In these examples, it's hard to discern if these were the designer's original intentions for how he wanted the site to be used, but that's besides the point, because like a desired path, the people who use the area have found how they like to use it, and that's all that really matters. The third aspect is about the temporariness or permanence of a space, and this goes along with the last aspect of adaptability. Um, a lot of time for public gathering spaces, we try to create a permanent place for people to gather and watch an event or concert. But I realized, however, the best public structure is no permanent structure at all. And what I mean by this is how temporary installations preserve the public nature of a space by keeping it open and available most of the time. When the temporary event or function is over, the space once again belongs to the public, promoting inclusivity and access. Here, we watched a soccer game in Lisbon at a temporarily built setting called Euro Village. This was made specifically to host the soccer matches or people to watch the games for a couple weeks, and then it became like the go-to spot for locals to watch the games and celebrate and eat and drink. And then after the games, the site is deconstructed and turned back to the public as if nothing happened. We saw this model again in Sevilla. The Plaza de España was transformed into a huge music venue when we were there, and it would stay like that for a couple weeks and then eventually turn back to normal. And I don't think anyone would argue that these backdrops for a concert is way better than anything a permanent structure could ever be. And I believe the US is starting to take notice of this and catch on. The last couple NFL drafts have been in a public space, and people have seen to like it better than when it was just out in a permanent venue. In summary, it's easy to understand why all these places mentioned feel special. The architecture, the atmosphere, and ambiance, all these help create a sense of place. And I think these spaces are memorable because they embody that identity of the city and invite people in for experiences. Thank you.